took my grandson to see what was the movie with Buzz Light?
I think it's
Yeah,
called
with
Lightyear.
Kiki. And like, and she had a baby with a woman. Oh, I didn't come in for this. They putting it everywhere. What up, though? It's your boy Big Snoop D-O-double-G.
Snoop catching some heat for comments he made about LGBTQ representation.
The heat he should have taken is being a black man in a high-profile position, a great platform where he communicates with not only black people, but young people and people across the color spectrum. But he's looked up to, whether he likes it or not, as kind of like a role model of sorts. It's kind of weird in this day and age when it's known for him to be smoking weed or high all the time, and with his lyrics in his past recordings and all. But that's reality. That's what it is now. And he has a responsibility, especially with his involvement in youth football. It kind of shocked me when I heard this story. I was like, I mean, because you walking around kids all day in the youth sports arena and traveling with them. And, Snoop was deeply involved and probably still is. I'm not really sure. I don't keep up with him like that lately, but I know he was really into the Pop Warner type football scene and coaching and mentoring. And how can you go from that? Or it would make me worry if my kid was under his watchful eye, and then years or a decade forward or longer, I see him saying stuff like that about being around his own grandkids. I'd be like, oh shit. I would have thought that had my kid felt close enough to him to ask him a question or talk to him intimately about something that, he looked up to him as an adult he trusted or valued his opinion. And then to think he'd curl up like that and be able to, don't be asking me nothing like that. That's just so counter to what we need to be trying to do. We need our children to ask us questions about things that they see in society. That didn't have to be in a movie theater. That could have been in the mall. You could have been in the mall. You could have been at Target and seen two ladies who are obviously together in a relationship. They might have even kissed or some shit in public. They can do that. It's legal. And your kids might witness that and go, hey, grandpa, what, those two ladies right there, how they got a baby and they're two women? And if you've been, oh, no, hell no. I just brought you to Target to, get you a couple of T-shirts. After you got to go ask your mama that. It would, as your child develops and matures, they look back and be like, not to come to you with that kind of stuff. Not have a opinion of you when it comes to, man, I asked my grandpa Snoop, hey, Papa Snoop, what's going on with the ladies? And he just set me down and was like, well, hold on, wait till we get out of the mall, or wait till we get back in the car. And on the way on, hey, man, you was asking me about the two females with the child. In today's society, women can be in relationships up to and including married. You break it down just like you would be talking to an adult and just take the profanity out. It's pretty much it. If a kid is old enough to ask those questions, you should answer in kind. Be responsible and be reasonable, but you should answer in kind. You cannot leave, because as a child, in my memory, I remember adults. I was an inquisitive child. I asked all kind of fucking questions, and I know I made adults uncomfortable. But adults who I was around on a regular basis, I knew when to ask these questions and when I had them in the best opportunity to get a decent response, and not to catch them when they're busy or preoccupied. But when I caught somebody chilling and not doing nothing, I'll go chill with them and then strike up a conversation, be asking all kind of shit, And I know it made some adults uncomfortable, but I think I was fortunate to have when they left the cussing in, they just say some shit and you'd be like, whoa. But we grew up in South Central Los Angeles before we moved to Compton. We lived a year in Watts, and I remember our neighbors in the South Central side. We lived in an apartment building. there was a lesbian couple, and my mom used to call them dykes and all. They'd be like, "Oh shit," now. But that's what we thought they called them, and other names too. And we would be like, "Wow." I mean, it's different. They both were married previously to men, and one had two children, and the other one had three children, and they lived together in a relationship. And that's what I saw growing up on the norm. I knock on the door, and my friend would come out, and we'd go play, and like normal with no thing. And I remember going inside their apartment a couple of times. One lady sitting on the couch watching TV, the other was in the kitchen, and I'm waiting on my little buddy to get ready. We go out and play, and it wasn't like I'd be staring at them and asking a bunch of questions, because I guess I just had a understanding that it was their house, and they was dykes according to my mom. And that's how I didn't shit. I was a little kid, and I had an understanding that that's just the way it was. But if I felt the need, and I don't even remember specifically, but I may have asked someone, and they may have clarified it up to my understanding at that point. I don't know, but I don't ever feel like I was pushed off or overwhelmed in adult. I felt some uncomfortable moments with some questions I'd ask, especially about racial stuff. That was my thing. I'd always be asking older people about racial things, gender related, LGBTQ type stuff. Not so much, And I saw that growing up in my neighbors, and people in school. You don't even know what sex really is, but you assume certain people are gay, as we called it, or whatever the names at the time were floating. But you get it. But as a Snoop Dogg, I picked this up on clearance after he pulled that shit with Trump. Doing the what was it, about 10 years ago, talking about, I never, y'all, sucker ass and all that shit, talking, trying to down talk people, and then he go and he up there DJing and rapping at Trump at a Trump fucking rallying event or whatever. Anyway, that kind of stuff just draws little pictures of who a person is. I have friends who are close to Snoop, and who have wonderful things to say about him. He a down solid brother. They love him. He's a wonderful person to be around. And I personally believe all of that. I believe Snoop is cool. He living the life like everybody else. But this is not directed at Snoop Dogg directly, but as black men, we all have to step up and take the responsibility. If it's our grandchildren, if it's our women, no matter who it is, and somebody asks us a question, and it might be a difficult one, you got to remember you only get one opportunity at that. If you discourage that person from ever coming back to you with something that's important or near and dear to their heart, they probably won't. And it takes away that opportunity for you to shape a small part of someone's life or understanding of life. But some people would rather pass on that, and I don't understand it. I'm not gonna sit here and say, "Well, that's understandable." It's not. That's your fucking grandchild. That's your blood related grandchild. That you should have some level of responsibility and obligation to talk to them about anything they want to talk to you about, so that in later years you won't be looking back saying, "Man, I sure wish I would have talked to him about that more in depth." And you didn't talk to him about it at all. You just completely was like, "Watch the movie."
It's Giving podcast. The rapper explaining his shock at seeing lesbian parents depicted on screen. The scene from the 2022 film marked Disney's first same-sex kiss.
Oh, my grandson in the middle of the movie like, Papa Snoop, how she have a baby with a woman? She a woman. Oh, I didn't come in for this. I just came to watch the goddamn movie. Hey, man, watch the movie. So it's like, I'm scared to go to the movies now. Like, y'all throwing me in the middle of I don't have an answer for it.
The moment was almost axed from the
But why would you feel scared? It is uncomfortable. Don't get me wrong, but fearful, like oh shit, because you can only tell them what they can understand about what they're asking you, and to up to that level, their understanding to do that. And so the next person who comes along at a different part in their life, if they should find someone else or come back to you, you can explain more in depth. Or when the other person starts, they'll be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Papa Snoop told me that that baby came out of a toaster oven, and some bullshit. And then the person will be like, oh no, that the child was made with a man, and that she was in a relationship. Everybody isn't with the same person for the rest of their life. She had a relationship with a man. Now she's in a new relationship with a woman, but the child is from her past relationship, or they went to a surrogate. And all that surrogate and all that scientific talk, the kid might not be ready for that, but you could let them know that that kid was created between a man and a woman, and and to the best of the ability, without confusing the kid. But as far as over explaining or you're gonna be fine. Just don't confuse them, and definitely don't ever let a kid see you afraid to just talk. That's a basic strength, is to be able to sit with a child who looks up wide eyed at you and ask you a question. And all you have to do is give them something that's free time, even if it's an inappropriate time to address appropriately in the movie theater. Put your arm around them and be like, wait till we get out of here, man. I'll tell you about that shit. And then after, the movie is over, take them and get a burger. Or when you get back to the house, be like, you remember when we was in the movies, you was asking me, don't let them, I ain't scared to answer that shit. I'm not going to be, telling you I'm going to answer you later and ducking and dodging and hoping, oh, I hope you don't bring that up again. Just bring it up to him, and be comfortable and confident talking to your grandchildren and your children and your loved ones about anything. It's such a it's coming from a place not of strength to react that way when a child or someone comes to you with something that you know and understand, but you feel uncomfortable relaying that. What if his grandson had, or has he come to him and talked about race? Talk to him about our place as black people, and his grandchildren appear to be biracial, some of them, and that's perfectly fine. But they really need to understand their both sides, or all sides of their lineage, and where and who they came from, and not have people saying, why are you so much darker than us, Uncle Snoop? Oh shit! Oh, don't be asking me that. No, you gotta just tell them, explain to them how it goes, and why you might look dark to them, but you ain't even dark to what we really came from. We've had an opportunity to do a lot of race blending in this country. Explain that. And it should be easy for that child to understand, because you could show them their mom and show them their dad and say, see, your mom and your dad, they're different race people, and you love everybody, and say some sweet shit and make the child feel confident and wonderful about the rapper that they're in. And not like, oh man, why would Uncle Snoop push me off on this topic or that topic or any topic? I just don't think that that gives our children that foundation that they really need. And with a guy who's Snoop, who I'm sure is probably one of the best grandparents on the planet, but you could take it a little step further. All of us grandparents, poor, rich, big platform, no platform, to make sure that we prioritize our communication. Don't run up, shy away from shit. Take that opportunity to take whatever you know about that particular subject that was brought up, and run with it. Take that opportunity. So you will. I know I have memories when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, because somebody told me something or said something to me profound. If it wasn't nothing but driving down the street every day and reading the billboard incorrectly, until I'm just going like, God, I don't look right, or I don't sound right, and I just turn to my dad and be like, hey, what did that say? And then he'd say it, and I'd be like, oh, maybe. I'd be like, I thought it'd say it, and he'd laugh. He'd be like, nah, how you think that? And I'd explain to him, because I was learning how to read and sound out shit. I was inquisitive. But if he'd have been like a person who was like, it was about alcohol, by the way, and he was, pronouncing it properly, and later it turned into one of my favorite alcohols. But the pronunciation of it was tripping me out. And when after he did it, explained it. If he'd have said like, "Oh, you don't need to know" or something like that, I'd have been like, more curious and wondering like, God, why would he, not tell me how to pronounce that word or whatever, But he didn't make no big deal. He just said it and laughed at the way I was pronouncing it, and we moved on. I think that makes it so much easier, even for the person who has the responsibility or the burden to speak on it, to just speak on it. Because when you make it seem like more than it really is, it becomes more than it really is.
Theatrical cut, but Pixar employees protested and got it reinstated.
It threw me for a loop. These are kids that we have to show that at this age, like
that part.
they're going to ask questions.
Yeah.
They are going to ask. I don't have the answer.
What'd you tell them?
But it's not the movie isn't the only source of that type of stuff. You're gonna see LGBTQ plus relationships at amusement parks, at beaches, in restaurants, in schools. You're gonna see people who physically, the way they dress and carry themselves, you're gonna be able to pretty much determine that they could strongly be a member of the LGBTQ community. You're going to see people who you, by looking at them, can't tell if they're male or female, and they may be neither. There are terms that I don't even have the understanding, and I wouldn't try to bullshit my way through an explanation with a young child. But to the best of my ability, I would just tell them what I know and how I know it and how my understanding came to be. So I can be like, first off, I'm a disclaimer this shit and tell you, young child, that I ain't an expert in this particular arena. But as an adult and knowing, what I do know, I'm going to explain to you the best I can instead of just like throwing a big old taboo on it and making the kid like, it's weird. Papa Snoop don't want to talk about that. It's not that big a deal. It really ain't. I think that we don't understand that when kids are learning and kids are asking questions, you have the opportunity to put a permanent memory, something that they will build their understanding of a particular subject on. It might not be their full understanding of it, but it could be the building blocks of something that they will always remember that afternoon at the movie theaters with Uncle Snoop, as opposed to it being that movie theater visit with Uncle Snoop and he was freaking the fuck out. Because then people later, when he tells that story, be like, really? Your grandpa was Snoop Dogg and he was tripping over that? The way he be rapping about bitches and hoes? Damn. he okay with explaining a way of communicating to females, the way of communicating in the streets, rendition of ghetto life in his music, and he's more comfortable with that than he is talking about sexuality of any kind with his grandson. Now, maybe if his grandson had asked him, hey, what's up with men and women or something, maybe he'd be ready to have that talk or talk about that one. Maybe it's just something about homosexuality that rubbed him wrong. But you want your kids to get important information and your grandchildren from you. You don't want to leave that to chance.
Watch the movie. Eat this popcorn.
Snoop's hot take sparked criticism in the comments. One user saying, "It isn't that hard to explain. Science." Another chiming in with, "Being afraid of gay parents in movies is crazy." And this reply, "He was probably smoking weed while watching the movie."
See, that's the bad part. It goes from people personally attacking him about his weed smokage or, other things or reasons. And the bottom line is it's probably the way he had to learn things. You think a little streetwise person like Snoop Dogg would, be more open to speaking about. That's what some people trip off of, how black people sometimes just talk about anything. You be at a party, you having a conversation, and the conversation go, you be like, I can't believe this motherfucker. I mean, we just met, but the conversation is deep and interesting and genuine. And sometimes if you go in those conversations, and maybe because I'm black, I don't know, but when I'm around other races of people, you have to warm up or know them before you go there. But some black people you meet, next thing you know, you're in a conversation, you be like, Jesus, this is some shit. But it is what it is. That's just how it is. And I just wish that all black people, not just famous black people and people with big platforms, but just would understand that it's a big old puzzle and that's just your little piece of it. Just to be able to strengthen the confidence, even if your answer isn't the most scientific. And later, the kid comes back and goes, "Wait a minute, that wasn't right what he told me." But if you at least took the time, and he can at least look back after he matures and go, "Man, my Uncle Snoop really, he was wrong here or there, but he gave me the general premise of what I asked. He took the time, but to be shooing things off, I just don't like that posture. That's not what we want to be displaying to our loved ones as a patriarch. You're Snoop Dogg to the world, but you Papa Snoop, and you have to step up and accept that responsibility, and you don't get to push it off. You don't get to do that.
We agree to disagree a lot, and it ain't always on the same page.
The 53-year-old, who's set to return to The Voice in September, has 3 grown children with his wife of nearly 30 years, Shantae, 1 son from another relationship, and 10 grandchildren.
Wait, what do the babies call you?
Papa Snoop. The part I love is that they all start off the same way. Like, they start off crying and kind of like distant from me. I gotta earn their trust and their love.
Will they all become a part of the business, the empire?
We're in the business of love and showing how to be parents, grandparents, and, not that we perfect or that we don't make mistakes, but just giving an example of what it's supposed to look like.
And that would be communicating with them. That's nice talk, but put that shit into action for real though. If you're gonna openly admit stuff like that, think it out. Make it the spin seem a little more positive. God damn. That hopefully the relationship with your grandkids had nothing to do with this video I'm talking about, and that it wasn't as big a blip on the radar as it looks like. But to see a grandfather being that uncomfortable, some people just have that personality. But when you don't have a real introverted style, you appear to be a person who's willing to speak on a lot of subjects that other people would be, or most people would be uncomfortable speaking on or conducting business in certain arenas. And you can't be that way with your grandkids, y'all. We got to lift them up. We got to make them armed better than we have ever been with information and knowledge and opportunities for things that we don't even know about, and they get to go learn about it and understand it and hopefully master it. And we're not going to help them if we limit their access to information that we have information for, and they're asking you. They're not asking you to do anything wrong or break any laws. They're just asking you to explain something to them. And if you can just sit down, show them you love them by, taking the time to pay shit, say, I don't know. If it's true. Don't say I don't know to some shit you know. But if you really don't know, they asking you some shit, be like, you know what, I don't know. Shit. When we get home, let's get on the computer. Get on the computer for you might not find the answer, but he'll know that. Man, my Uncle Snoop, he looked it up. My Papa Snoop, my Grandpa Snoop, my Daddy Snoop, whatever he calls himself around his family, you got to take that lead. You got to take that position. You the man with the money. You the man with the platform. They look up to you. And hopefully they'll understand, oh, no. That Snoop you guys talking about, that's his public persona. But he's my Papa Snoop. And, man, I seen him cry. I seen him, sit up and hold me and watch movies. And every time I wake him up and ask him a question, he'll do his best. Or, have the moments and the memories that are outside of what people get the opportunity to take stabs and shots at you for. Make it look like you some kind of derelict or whatever. And I know that and I'm gonna say that again, he's probably one of the best grandparents that there could be, but we can all be better. And in that way, goddamn, just to publicly admit that little Snoops is running around, being information starved because you ain't got the confidence or the comfort level with your grandkids to go down that road. And you should. We all should. Like, comment, share, and please subscribe. And we'll see you on the next Black Popcorn.